Hi there. I have never been a huge fan of resolutions, but something I did want to do this year is pose another challenge to myself. I never necessarily follow through with them, but I'm going to be a little bit more positive this time since I think, like a lot of people watching this video, you might need a bit of a distraction. So for me, what usually works is some pretty strict guidelines as to how to proceed. Main focus of this is going to be reading, and I'd like to put together for you a February TBR based on 2 main criteria, and this will be a recurring thing every month. Something that always happens with my TBR, and this is month over month, year over year, is that I will buy like 5-ish books at a time when I do a book haul, and then I might get to 1 or 2 of them and the rest will just sit on the shelf, probably for several years to come. The other thing is that I have a lot of books that are on my TBR from years past that I just never think of because they're kind of like, oh, I own that. Oh, it's been there for a long time. It's kind of like secure in my mind that it's on my physical TBR and that I can read it anytime I want, but there are some pretty old books on there. Every month moving forward, as far as I can remember or I'm motivated to, I'm gonna have a TBR for you, and it's gonna show 5 books that are the oldest on my TBR based on when I added them on Goodreads, and then the 5 most recent books that I bought from my TBR. So I'm excited to see if there are a lot of books that I unhaul from my old TBR. I really hope I don't unhaul a lot of books from my new TBR. So let's start with the old books first. And I'm gonna also consider a book that I don't know when I bought it as being old. The oldest book on my TBR, based on Goodreads, which I don't use anymore, is Airframe by Michael Crichton. No surprise there. This is Airframe. I believe this was one of the many that got turned into a movie. It says 3 passengers are dead, 56 are injured, the interior cabin virtually destroyed, but the pilot manages to land the plane. At a moment when the issue of safety and death in the skies is paramount in the public mind, a lethal mid-air disaster aboard a commercial twin-jet airliner bound from Hong Kong to Denver triggers a pressured and frantic investigation. Definitely a pre-9/11 book, but I've wanted to read it for a long time. I think there was a video a while back that I posted that I read like the first few chapters or something, and I thought the intensity was really good and was definitely interested to pick it up. So that is the oldest book of my TBR. I added this on May 30th, 2012, which sounds about right because I think that's when I first joined BookTube and, or at least started watching BookTube videos and made my own Goodreads TBR. The one after that, I had like a weird area of time where I think I just deleted a bunch of books that I didn't want to read. So the next one that I added is Lessons in Thorns by Sierra Simone. I added this in September of 2019. It is a ebook, so I'll have that up on the screen. I think this one is probably one of the first like smutty books that I ever really added to my TBR outside of like Helena Hunting and stuff. I think it's also dark academia. When librarian Poe Markham takes the job at Thornchapel, she only wants 2 things: to stay away from Thornchapel's tortured owner, Auden Guest, and to find out what happened to her mother 12 years ago. It should be easy enough. Keep her head down while she works in the house's crumbling private library, and while she hunts down any information as to why this remote manor tucked into the fog-shrouded moors would be the last place her mother was seen alive. But Thornchapel has other plans for her. On Storygraph, which is what I do use now, this is listed as erotica, queer, romance, medium-paced, emotional. The next 2 are comic books, which originally I wanted to exclude, but I think it just gives me a good chance to actually get through those because some of them I put off for a long time for a reason. So the next 2 are Firefly Legacy Books 1 and 2. I bought these, I think actually got them as a gift from Jose in February of 2020. The reason I put off reading them for so long is because I absolutely loved the Firefly series, but when I tried reading the first book, I didn't know what the hell was happening. Like, I couldn't tell if this was supposed to be a continuation or if it was supposed to be the story retold, and so I need to look into that a little bit because they were referencing people and places and all these things, and I was very lost and it was very wordy. So we're gonna have to try that again. I have a feeling this might be the DNFs that I first have for this series, but I'm gonna be optimistic. So that is 4 books so far. And then the 5th book is one that I'm very excited about. This is the Dominion Anthology by Zelda Knight. I think that's just the editor. Of speculative fiction from Africa and the African diaspora. There's a whole bunch of authors on here. It's the first anthology of speculative fiction and poetry by Africans and the African diaspora. An old god rises up each fall to test his subjects. Once an old woman's pet, a robot sent to mine an asteroid, faces an existential crisis. A magician and his son time travel to Ngoni country and try to change the course of history. A dead child returns to haunt his grieving mother with terrifying consequences. And it goes on and on. I think it literally gives you a sentence about each story. I put it off for a long time only because anthologies sometimes irritate me. And I really want this one to be one that does well in my mind. So those are the 5 oldest books on my TBR. And now let's look at the most recent books that I've purchased. I have bought a lot of books lately. So we're gonna have some nonfiction, which is very different for me. The Secret History of the Rape Kit, a true crime story by Pagan Kennedy. I picked this one up recently. I saw it at one of my favorite bookstores, and it's talking literally about what it says. In 1972, Martha Marty Goddard volunteered at a crisis hotline counseling girls who have been molested. By the end of the decade, she had launched a campaign pushing hospitals and police departments to collect evidence of sexual assault and treat survivors with dignity. She designed a new kind of forensic tool, the Rape Kit, and new practices of evidence collection that spread across the country. Yet even as Marty fought for women's rights, she allowed a man to take credit for her work and then vanished into obscurity. It chronicles one of journalists' missions to understand a crucial innovation and the problematic history of forensics in America. I've always wanted to read more about the history of it, especially because historically there is a huge queue of rape kits that need to be tested still, and I just thought it would be appropriate to read it. There's another nonfiction that I bought at the exact same time. This is Everyone Who Is Gone Is Here, the United States, Central America, and the Making of a Crisis by Jonathan Blitzer. Everyone who makes the journey faces an impossible choice. Hundreds of thousands of people who arrive every year at the US-Mexico border travel far from their homes. For years, the majority came from El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras, but many more have begun their journey much farther away. Some flee persecution, others crimes or hunger. They may have already been deported, but the United States remains their only hope for safety and prosperity. They will take their chances. As Blitzer dramatizes with forensics, unprecedented reporting, this crisis is the result of decades of misguided policy and sweeping corruption. Brilliantly weaving these stories of Central Americans whose lives have been devastated by chronic political conflict and violence with those of American activists, government officials, and the politicians responsible for the country's tragically tangled immigration policy, Blitzer reveals the full, layered picture of this vast and unremitting conflict. Again, very appropriate for how the world is currently going. So I really wanted to read this. This one's actually pretty hefty, so I think this one might be the most challenging. Also the fact that it's nonfiction, and I don't read nonfiction. And then, not to totally go off the rails, but I have 2 romance books, and I do apologize. The first one is Lessons with the Mothman by Catherine Moon. This is an ebook that came out, and it's the 3rd in a series. Elias, freelance consultant to Monster Smash Agency and prestigiously rare moth fae, has never been in love. Granted, he's never been interested in the emotion, but with his friends mating with their clients, the new curiosity is keeping him up at night. If only he could find someone to draw him in like the moth to the flame. Victoria is looking for facts, not feelings. She wants to understand why the monster species are so much more satisfied than humans. Than her, but the handsome Mothman who volunteers to aid her academic study wants to stimulate more than her intelligence. She's willing to explore their physical chemistry, but she wants no part of his designs on her heart. This one is a Mothman monster romance. I won't be taking any questions unless you love monster romances, then let's discuss. The next one is a hockey romance by Helena Hunting, which I somehow already mentioned in this video. It's a standalone. It's opposites attract hockey college romance. Chase Lovett, star of my unrequited fantasies, hottest guy on campus, hockey god. And thanks to a fire in the dorms, he just became my accidental roommate. So that looks like it is a one bed situation potentially. I don't know. I love Helena Hunting's books. I've read the majority of them, and so typically always a win in my books. This one's a little bit more difficult. Technically, I got a copy of War of the Worlds #5. This is a comic. So let me find it. Because it's #5, I'm gonna actually read #1 because it makes no sense to read #5. So this is Caliber Comics, War of the Worlds. Let's get a non-glary angle. I think this is from the 90s. Yeah, 96. And I'm honestly not sure if it's a continuation, a retelling, something like that. I love War of the Worlds from the movie. Just love it. So Jose, since he has a comic book job, he has been getting me all of them. So we'll read #1. So that gives us 10 items, not all of them novels. I think it's very realistic, but I'm gonna read these throughout the month. Depending on how much I like them, I'll probably do a reading vlog or 2. If there's no vlog, then there's no vlog. But at the end of the month, I'll do the same kind of thing. I'll do a wrap up and some new TBRs. Let me know in the comments if you have any suggestions on a different way to do this, because I think personally, as usual, it's a bit unorganized. Or if you've read any of these, let me know if something I should start with first. We'll see. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.